I'd like to welcome everyone to the January board meeting of the Board of Directors of PPOA. I'd like to wish everyone a belated happy holidays and good wishes for this new year. We all on the board are hopeful that we have a positive new year, both personally and for this community. I'm reminded that life goes on, and we do have some sad news to report a little bit later about one of our staff members, and we'll talk about that later on. We have a number of cards here today, and most of them relate to the item on the agenda referring to as our GPS approach for the air park. We're going to limit the presentations to 3 minutes each. When you make a presentation, we're going to ask you to stop at 3 minutes. I'm going to ask, if appropriate, for a board member to make a reply. And right now, we're looking at over 20 minutes of just for that discussion alone. So, let me get the official watch out so I can see it. While I'm doing that, the first speaker. Will you do the timer? Okay. Beverly has agreed to be the official timer. Kevin Ross is the first card I have. And I ask you to say your name and, if you want to, your address.
I'm Kevin Ross. I've been here for about 30 years, been flying out of Pecan for 30 years. This airport's been here for 45 years. In 45 years, we've operated under visual flight rules. That means you can look out the window, you can see the houses, you can see the runway, you can see where you're going. The other option is to fly IFR, which is instrument rules, which means your sole reference to keep the airplane right side up and navigating is via the instruments. There's no doubt in my mind, after flying commercially and militarily for more than 40 years, that VFR, where you're looking out the window, is a lot easier and a lot safer. We've got a group of people here at Pecan. I think that group's about 10 people. They've told me it's as much as 30, but they refuse to show me the names. You've got about 10 people, in my opinion, that want this approach put in. It's a pet project, and with 3 of the board members being from the air park and 2 of them leaving in March, I think now's the time to kind of grab some money from you. These guys supposedly put up the money for the approach, but now they're asking us to give them money out of our pockets, PPOA money, to maintain the approach. There's 7,000 people living at Pecan. There's 3,000 members, 170 air park homes. Out of the 170 air park homes, you've got 10 people looking to take your money and pay for the maintenance of this approach. It doesn't make any sense to me. And that's the essence of what I got to say. Thanks.
Since there are a number of speakers who apparently are going to speak about this, I'm going to ask the board members to just hold off in our response till we get a completion. Next speaker is Pat Stewart.
Pat Stewart. I live on Woodlawn on the air park. I think Kevin covered 90% of it. You know, we just don't believe having an instrument approach at Pecan is value added. It creates no safety benefit. There are people who think that it will allow emergency care to come in helicopters. I spoke to them today. They have their own internal minimums, and as long as those minimums meet their internal minimums, they might do it, is what they said. But just because we get an approach in here does not mean helicopters will fly in here for medical purposes. This is just not a safe idea. Thank you.
Joel Lyman.
Well, I'm not going to go over what those guys went over. My question is very simply, the GPS approach originally, some of the plans were, okay, we've got to move the Plainview Park Pavilion because the FAA would not approve the GPS approach without that being moved. And also there was a move afoot to have to move the helipad, which now we would, over to where some vacant land was available over by the fire EMS building. So what is the use of, somebody said, well, it's got to be CareFlight needs this to get in here. All right, are we still contemplating moving this park and spending between $89.5 from the first proposal to $140,000, which was the last proposal I saw? Now, from my understanding, it's gone back to the Finance Committee for some sort of approval. Are we still planning to renovate in place, or are we planning to move that park as part of this GPS approach thing? That's the first question. The second question that I have is, well, that's in combined. There's a bylaw here, and I don't know, you told me 2 meetings ago that you would take a look at what requires the vote for an expenditure over $50,000, okay? And when I said that that park, if you have to move it, it's not a simple renovation of an existing facility, it is actually creating a new and more grandiose facility, a pavilion 3 times the size and 3 times as expensive, rather than replacing the tarp, fixing the bathrooms, and replacing the septic. Let me refer you real quickly, and I want you to, you were supposed to look at this, Article 7, Board of Directors, Section 10. The Board of Directors shall have authority to commit the corporation for further capital additions and improvements in an amount not to exceed $50,000 during any one fiscal year. Capital additions and improvements in excess of said amount in any one fiscal year must be approved by a majority vote of the members of the corporation present at any regular or special meeting of the members at which a quorum is present. Quote, capital additions and improvements refer to land, buildings, equipment, and improvements beyond those currently existing and do not refer to assets presently in existence which need replacement or repair because of obsolescence or wear and tear. Well, naturally, that pavilion needed some improvements in the bathroom, the septic, and naturally a new tarp because it was torn. It did not require a new building. I say you're in violation of this. Not only that, you better rework this bylaw because if you read it, that says an accumulation of capital assets. In other words, if you approve a $30,000 pickup truck, a new one, not a replacement, but you needed another vehicle because we've grown, and then somebody says, well, we also need an additional backhoe for $70,000. Not a replacement, but an additional one. You're in violation. It's not per capital asset. This reads per fiscal year, all capital assets. Now, I don't want to hamstring you guys, but maybe you need to look at that and maybe bring it up to, one asset. I mean, we've grown. We're going to have to add equipment at times. And when you do that, you'd be in violation of this without a vote. And that's something you need to look at.
Thank you.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, Joel, thank you very much for your comment. You're absolutely correct. 50,000 is a total. We're fully aware of that. We bought a zero-turn rate mower, I think it was 2 years ago. It cost $30,000, and that only left us $20,000 for other new assets that didn't currently exist. And so we're fully aware of it, and we go with the bylaw just to the letter. Now, where it gets vague is when they talk about assets that are obsolete. When the septic tank no longer works, when the slab is no longer repairable, now it gets into the fuzzy area, and we have this debate all the time amongst ourselves and with committee chairmen, whether or not if we tear everything down but the data plate, are we still legal? If we throw away the data plate and build it over again, are we still legal? And the bylaws does not address that. And so we get into the debate all the time on whether it's appropriate to change out a 4x4 window and put an 8x8 window in it. Are we now doing something that didn't exist to begin with? So it's very vague. I like to think that our predecessors made it vague intentionally to give the board of the directors and management some discretionary authority.
I agree. I'm sorry, we're not having a conversation. I'll take our prerogative, Joel. But obsolescence is a term that allows the leeway that we sometimes need when our facilities are no longer adequate to serve the community. And that's the conversation that we have all the time, not just on the air park or the golf course, but all of the assets that we have here. Okay, Jerry Blakemore.
Jerry Blakemore, 9419 South Longwood.
You hold the mic up to your, and you have to talk into the front part of it.
No kidding.
Yes, you do, like that.
What was your first clue? I'm here trying to find out why I'm going to be paying for this GPS system when it only is limited to the use of a certain amount of people and not everybody. This community, we own this community. We own all the facilities in it. It belongs to the people here. But for an instance, I belong to the golf club. I play golf. I pay $30 a month to drive on the cart path out here. What's the difference in them guys in that air park over there doing the same thing? If they need that GPS system, let them pay for it, not me. I haven't got no use for that air park down through there. That's why I don't live on it. So let them pay for their own, not me.
I want to compliment all you speakers. No one is going past the 3 minutes yet. All right, we may have one now. Ray Lewis?
Does it start when I start talking here?
Right now, Ray.
Well, I didn't want to get up here, but I feel like we need to correct some of this facts. The Pecan Pilots collected a total of $18,600, which was a year and a half, 2 years ago, contributed into the coffers of Pecan, and a lot of that money is still there. You're off by about 300% on your estimate of numbers of people. When you say 10, it was at least 3 times that. I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot more than 10. When you mentioned that, would you ask him that we've got one? I didn't interrupt him. Mr. Chairman, would you please?
And if it happens again, we'll ask him again.
Thank you. Regarding the not safe, I regularly fly GPS approaches at night coming into airports because it improves the safety and situational awareness on a regular basis. I know that I'm high enough to be safe, and I know it makes for just an overall safer approach, whether the weather is bad or not. Secondarily, there are people who fly when the weather is bad, flying to Granbury and then Scud Run over here in order to get down. This will allow them to do it in a much safer way. The park refreshment is a separate from the approach and will be done regardless. It's needed. The current one blew down, and that's a separate issue. Some of the people in the airport forced us to have a vote which failed miserably on a runway safety area because they did not want something close to the runway. We then offered to move it outside the FAA's 200-foot zone, and they came back and said, we don't have any dog in that hunt and don't care. We are trying to make it safer for everyone around here. Regarding the cart path, I think it's a totally separate thing. You can play golf here free. You don't have to pay a cart path fee in order to play golf, just like you can land here free. It's one of the common amenities. If you want to use your own cart path, own cart, you have to pay it. But I think we don't charge the golf people every year to resurface the golf course. I mean, the tennis courts. There are just so many things like that that are not regularly done. They're part of the routine things in maintenance here. We collected the money to build this, and we'll donate it. It will increase the value of everyone's property by increasing the attractiveness of Pecan Plantation.
Good job. Jack Rich.
Hello, folks. I'm Jack Rich. I live at 9204 Hanging Moss. My wife and I moved here in 1999, and we've seen a lot of things come and go. To board members and Pecan employees, all a part of this great place we live in, and fellow residents, hello. To board members and committee persons, I personally want to thank each of you for your service and dedication in representing us. And to employees, great job. Great job. Well done. I came here tonight to disagree with some residents who perceive as mismanagement and dereliction of duty by a few employees. They see misdeeds where there are none. You might see them, the dissidents, as being the fox in the hen house. Easy pickings the fox is. They've called for the termination of some employees by sowing distrust. They've tried to bully us down to silence. That will not happen. I'm almost through. So I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, listen to the silent majority of us. Then act in the best interests of our association and its valued employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. And I'm remiss by not, okay, I should have asked the board members to respond to the comments about the GPS discussion, and I wonder, Dick, if you're willing to discuss it. Okay.
Let me see what I can come up with.
I would, while Dick's looking for his notes, I would like to make a comment. You know, I'm a commercial pilot. I've got tens of thousands of hours, most of it instrument time. One of the most dangerous things you can do is to fly a VFR approach at night into an unlit or poorly lit runway. It's probably the smartest thing you can do is fly an approach that has a visual descent point that puts you on the proper glide path so that you will make the threshold and land safely. So when I hear people say that the GPS approach at night is unsafe, I'll argue with them. It's far safer to fly an approach, on a GPS approach or an ILS approach at nighttime than it ever is to do a VFR approach.
Thanks, Doug. I'll start by making a comment about our GPS approach. For your comment, Doug, the GPS approach as it's designed now is a day approach only. It's not for night. So I'd love to use it at night, but it's not going to be that way, for what that's worth. The next correction I'll make is Ray is using the same numbers I am, and he mentioned that $18,600 was raised by the air park to institute this approach. And there was $5,000 paid to a company called STI out of that money, and that got us to $18,000. The original number was $23,600. So that's what was put together by the air park members who thought this was important and wanted to contribute. It was $23,600. There's a number of issues on the table. People have brought up safety issues. They've brought up money issues. When this was proposed, and I believe, I think I'm correct, it was 7 years ago when this whole thing started. It was at least 5. But it's been an ongoing project for a very long time. We engaged a company that could design an approach to a private airport, which is what Pecan's Airport is. And there aren't very many companies that can do this. I think there were 3 when Joe Sasser started this project. The one he was using went out of business recently. The FAA decertified them, so now the FAA has seen the troubles that Joe Sasser and our community have gone through, and they've agreed to build this approach at no charge to us. And the agreement, when Joe Sasser first raised the $23,600, the agreement was that the air park members would pay for the institution, the writing, the certification of the approach, and that PPOA would take over managing it. Our general manager, Michael Bartholomew, is in fact the airport manager. He's not a pilot. He has that title because he's the general manager of Pecan. Pecan was going to take over the maintenance of this approach at that point. That has been the agreed upon thing for the last 7 years. So the FAA has now got down to brass tacks, and they said, if you want us to do this final certification, you need to pay for the 5-year maintenance agreement, and they delineated it. And it's several things. Some of the things they do annually, and they do it in their office up in Oklahoma City, and it's reviewing obstacles that have been built around airports and deciding, is the approaches that are designed for that airport still valid with this new obstacle in place. And sometimes they have to modify the approaches based on obstacles. So they can do that office work, and there's a charge for that. And I'm flushing my papers around here. Let me see what I can come up with. That office work is $2,300 a year. That's the maintenance of the approach by the offices up in Oklahoma City. Then there's a requirement to actually take an FAA certified airplane, and so I should say a flight check airplane that is instrumented to check approaches, and they have to fly the approach every 540 days minimum. And there's a charge for that. And it's going to depend on which airplane they use to fly that certification test. It could be a small turboprop King Air, it could be a Learjet, it could be a Challenger. The Challenger is the most expensive airplane. What they've quoted us to fly that approach and flight check it is $3,157. And they have taken the worst case scenario. They've said, okay, Pecan's approach is up for renewal or recertification, whatever the term is. We've got to get on our most expensive airplane, the Challenger, fly from Oklahoma City down to Pecan, check the approach, and fly back to Oklahoma City. That's the $3,157. In actuality, they try to give people like Pecan a little bit of a break, and they combine it with a flight check on another airport. Other airports around here have GPS approaches. They could combine it with Fort Worth Meacham or Fort Worth Spinks or Dallas Love or DFW. If they do that, PPOA is only on the hook to pay the flight time from that airport down here, fly the check, and go to the next airport they're going to do. So this $3,157 is their highest number they currently estimate that it could cost. They say it will be less than that. So over the next 5 years, there's 5 times the $2,300, and there's 3 times they have to do a flight check, and they've put in $3,157 for each one of those. There is a one-time charge to finish certification of the approach of $4,700. If you add all this stuff up, it comes to, you're going to love this number, $27,505. The Airpark Group put up their $23,500, and there's still $10,266 in that fund. So because of that, that fund is going to pay the first year, which completes the certification, completes the $2,300 annual office work they do, and leaves $2,700 for the second year. So what the Airpark Committee is asking the board to approve is basically 3 years of maintenance, because the airport owners have already paid the first year and a half of it. So we're looking for about 3.5 years. That totals up to $17,239. And just for the people who want to complain about the money, we calculated it out. For the 3,050 members in Pecan, per month, it's 9.3 cents per month. So that is what the board is being asked to be approved for a 5-year renewal on an FAA approach.
I would just make one more comment about that, the contract with the FAA is a 5-year contract renewable, so that means that if at the end of 5 years, if for whatever reason the airport deems that it's we're not using it, we have to make a positive approach to renew that contract. So it doesn't continue. And something that wasn't brought up, and I hope this helps. We have an airport that's an asset here. If an individual is looking around for a place to move with his aircraft, he would like to know what kind of amenities we have. Do we have an airport that's lit? Do we have a fuel station? And what kind of instrument approaches do we have here? And so that would bring in a potential member who would bring a certified airplane that's qualified to fly approaches, and generally those would be the kinds of aircraft and pilots we'd like to have at our community. So it would be an asset in the same way that golf courses are certified by pros and so forth. So I hope that helps. We have one more card.
Bob, can I have one comment? Just for those who are not airplane or airport experts, when we talk about maintenance, you've heard the word we're trying to cover the maintenance cost of this. It's not maintenance by our maintenance people. It's maintenance of the GPS. It's done in a year. You know, it's nothing. It won't have any impact on our workforce or on our people here. So I just wanted to clear that out because the word maintenance was used.
Could I also say something, too? One of the speakers mentioned that he doesn't fly, and therefore he doesn't feel the need that he should support that. And, you know, we're a shared amenity community. That's what we all agree to when we move here. And in this past budget, for instance, I'll give you an example. I don't own a horse, and most of the people in this room probably don't own a horse, and they're probably the fewest number of people. But the board approved $10,000 for lighting down there to make it a safe place for our members that do have horses. That is part of the goal of, it has to be one of the goals of the board, is to make sure we're looking out for all the members and all of their interests and making sure our amenities that we offer them are a safe place for them to be. So that's the approach, and it's not about favoritism. I don't care if every board member on this board is a horse person. That wouldn't be the reason we'd make that decision. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We have one more card. Mrs. Farmer? Is that? Yeah.
Okay, she's going to tell
Good evening, Gertrucia Farmer, Hanging Moss Drive. Hello. Thank you. Gertrucia Farmer, Hanging Moss Drive. I initially came here to ask for volunteers regarding the playground initiative. It is now a part of a long-range planning committee through the Sports and Recreation. They have created a subcommittee. There are myself, who's a part of the subcommittee. So I came here to ask that if you are interested in being a part of a focused initiative regarding specifically the playgrounds, then please contact Keith Casterlin in Sports and Recreation, or even email myself privately at gertrisha@me.com. GERTRISHA@me.com. In addition, if we're going to be sharing expenses, perhaps we can do $1 per member towards the financing of new park equipment. But that's for another day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Patricia.
We'll put a sign up sheet back there for you.
And finally, before we get to our regular agenda, I just want to make a comment that this board has been working for literally weeks trying to put together a proposal to present to the membership to schedule and fund at least 7 projects over the next several years to enhance the quality of life here at Pecan. These are projects that that our member committees have been working on for months, and the board is trying to respond to that effort to put together a plan so that we can support them. I would hope that most of you or all of you will stay for the town hall meeting after this meeting is concluded, and we can discuss that further. We have another individual who wishes to talk, and I guess I didn't have a card. Ms. Nifong? Or Mr. Nifong? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I filled it out, so. But I'll make this real short, because most of my comments was about the GPS. I think it's been enough has been discussed on that. Is it working?
You have to talk
in the top? Okay. All right. We'll leave out the first part. But I've only been here about a little over 2 years. My name's Gary Nifong. I live 5615 Wedgefield. And to me, the community is getting older, and when we put a package for people to vote on, naturally, if they're not a golfer or they're not at the airport, if they don't play tennis, they're not going to vote for it. So this might be a discussion for all of us, but I feel like the people that use the amenities can pay a little extra. I belong to Nutcracker. I play 5 days a week down there. My wife plays here at Pecan a lot. It wouldn't hurt us to, when we make a tea time, put in an extra $2, $3, $4, $5. That would be on top of the monthly court fee. Same thing with the tennis courts. Do we really need more tennis courts? I know probably the majority of the people like to play probably between 10 and 12. It'd be just like trying to get tea times at Pecan. You need to fill up all the court time. So I'm so glad that the EMS fire department increase passed. I voted for it. That's something that the whole community can use. But as far as specialized stuff, that's my answer to it. Thank you.
I would make this comment, Mr. Neifeld. First of all, welcome to the community. I would invite you to consider cutting your golf down by maybe 1 day a week and joining one of our committees. And maybe long-range planning or our finance committee to help figure that out. User fees is something that certainly is a topic that's been discussed in the past. Right now, we don't generally use it, but nevertheless, thank you very much for your comment. Next we have our minutes that have been provided to the board. May we have a motion, please?
I make a motion that the minutes be approved.
Motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any additions or changes? If not, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? The motion passed. Item number 4, the financials. Treasurer's report, Mr. Kite.
Thank you, sir. Okay, these are the numbers as of the end of November 2017. General fund operations, total revenues were a little over $500,000, $552,000. Expenses, $511,000. We came out with a surplus of $41,530. We can compare that to the budget, and we had budgeted a revenue of $538, so we came in over our budget. Cost of goods sold was budgeted at $64,000, and we spent more. So we came up with a variance on those two of $15,000. And you add them up, I'm sorry, the difference is $1,177. Then you can read cost of labor, $287,000 for the month. We had budgeted $307, so we came out ahead on that. Other expenses, $142 versus $169. Again, we were ahead. And total cost of operations, $430,726 versus a budget of roughly $46,000 more. So we did fine in that month. Previous year, you can compare. We're growing all the time. We have roughly 45 more members this year than we did last year, so our numbers are up.
Sorry.
Cash in banks, we have lots of money sitting around in different accounts. Operating revenues for the month were $552,681. Cost of goods sold, again, was $80,000, so there's $472 left. Out of that, we took labor and taxes and benefits of $287,000. Other operating expenses, $142, and then we come down to that net surplus before depreciation of $41,000. That operating cash balance right now is running right around $1 million. The capital reserve fund began the year with $2.175 million. We've deposited $113,000 in the first 2 months of the year, expended $46,000, and the ending cash balance is $2.24. Road and drainage fund started the year with 1.2 million. We've deposited 57,000. We've expended 586,000, and the balance is down to 690. And that 586,000 were the two ongoing projects of the front circle, from Fall Creek Highway to the bridge, and also the one on Westover, that project. Is this both projects, the 586? I believe it's only one of them, isn't it?
We haven't paid the invoices completely for the Westover project.
Westover is still unpaid, okay.
Correct.
So the numbers that I have in my mind is when Westover is paid, that 586 goes up to about 750. If that's what I remember right, somewhere around 250,000. The new capital fund, this is the fund where for all of our members over 3,000, part of their fees when they become a new member goes into the new capital asset fund, and we are now at 3,050 members, and that balance is up to $92,800. These are cash balances, and this is, like I said, we just wrote checks for the road work at the front gate. So this is a snapshot. It's like looking at your checkbook at any one time. It's going to be up or down as you look over time. But these are the fund balances as of this point. Total cash in the bank, over $4 million. This is a breakdown just to let you know kind of where your money goes. With this $10 a month increase for EMS, our dues are now $152. 90.75 goes into the general fund each month for each member, $8 to the capital reserve fund, $19 to road and drainage, trash pickup is $14, and EMS goes from 10 to 20. So those are the monthly totals and the yearly totals for all of those assessments. And up in the upper left, you can see we have 3,051 new members. Not new members, but total members. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I think I'll take over from here, and we're going to talk a little bit about...
Michael, before you get started, while we still have a full house, we are coming up to an election pretty soon, and we have several candidates that are here, and I wonder if Vince Sprinkle, who is chair of our nominating committee, could just introduce them to the audience.
I think we have here this evening Joel Nyman. Joel, would you please stand? Thank you. Dick Bozak and Ron Liddell. Thank you. Did I miss anybody? Oh, please stand. Thank you. Anybody else? Is Mr. Karsten here? All right. Thank you.
So, yeah, we have 5 candidates who are running for the 3 positions on the board, and we thank you all for your willingness to serve. I'm sorry, Michael, for the interruption.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. President. Let's talk about first month of the year, our fiscal year, and let's talk about our departmental performances. Security revenue, $10,000. We had a good sticker revenue, both in commercial and vehicle stickers. You can see the labor and expenses, and if you look at the far right side, you can see those are all positive variances. Golf had a good month. Obviously, the last few weeks were not, but for November, we did have strong merchandise sales and strong green fees. So we had $48,000 in revenue. Labor was down a little bit because we were a little short-staffed in the golf maintenance department. Still looking for people in that department. And the income and loss was $25,000 on a budget of $28,000, so we had a $2,500 positive variance to plan. Roads and grounds, usually that's a pretty low number. We only had 2 new home permits this year, in November, start of our fiscal year, so it started out a little slow, but we did spend less in labor, not purposely, but again, we are short-staffed and very tight job market, and it's very difficult to find people for both roads and grounds and golf maintenance, but we're starting to get some applications in and hope to have those positions fully staffed next month. But at any rate, roads and grounds and also expenses, a lot of this is timing. We didn't spend a lot on road material this month, so that was down. And so we had a rather large variance, a positive variance in roads and grounds of $18,000. But that is more of a timing issue and a labor issue more than anything else. Sports and rec, campground revenues continue to be strong. That's a majority of the revenue in sports and recreation, along with our programming. Expenses were controlled well along with labor, and so we had a positive variance of $2,200 for sports and recreation. Facilities maintenance was right on target, 16,862, so just about exactly at our budget. Food and beverage, another good month in food and beverage, $117,000 in total sales. As was mentioned earlier, our cost of goods sold, our food cost was a little bit higher than we would like to see, and we'll be looking to have that number go down next month. Labor was right on budget. Expenses, we spent less than our budget, and so on a budget to lose $13,000, we lost $9,300 for a positive variance of $3,900. Communications, we did have a strong ad revenue for the columns in November. All of our expenses were controlled, and so we had a positive $1,600 in the communications department. The inn, 38.2% occupancy. We were running in the low 30s, so we are seeing some more business in the inn, and that 38.2, that was exactly the same occupancy last month. And so because of that, we did have a $3,500 positive variance to plan. Cooking revenue in the marina continues to exceed budget and prior year. Gasoline revenue was below our budget. But because of the cooking revenue, we did have a positive variance. We lost just $734 in our marina operations, so nearly break even, $1,100 positive variance to plan. Member services spent $1,200 less than our budget, and that is for all the coffee and the other amenities for our meetings. And we now have a full stables of 20 horses, and so that is our revenue rate at 20 horses. And you can see we had a small positive $173 positive variance. Actually, the variance was positive $766, and the income was positive $173. So the bottom line, we finished with a positive variance to plan with our departmentals of $37,026. Our payroll, as was mentioned earlier, our revenue, good revenue month, $552,000 in revenue. Always a good barometer is look at prior year, so we finished $37,000 ahead of prior year, so that's always good to see. Cost of labor, taxes and benefits, we spent $19,000 less than our budget. Again, some of that was because of our staffing situation, and we spent $2,300 more than prior year. This is a look at our indirect overhead. When we take our G&A expenses and we allocate those to the department, you can get a picture of what each of those amenities cost on a monthly basis. And you can see they're in descending order there on the right-hand side. And if you were to add all that up, obviously it equals the member assessments of $277,826, and our fees, $27,000. And because of that, we have a net surplus of $41,530 for the first month of the year. Operating forecast, obviously, after 1 month, there's going to be many changes over the next 11, but right now, our budget for the year is $2,900 positive. Net income right now, we're projecting $14,000, but again, it's only 1 month out of 12, so that will take some time. Capital projects completed. The pool has been replastered. We still have a little bit of work to complete that project, but the majority of it is completed. And the pool cleaner is working, and our pool chemical controllers have been installed, and we have purchased our china, glass, and silver. Capital laws that are in progress, skid steer, that's mainly a bobcat, for lack of a better term. Pack gym lighting, we have a great situation working with TXU to retrofit our pack lighting with LEDs, and we'll get a great ROI on that, and will improve greatly the lighting capacity in the gym especially. Marina dock and fuel dispenser, that project will start in January this month, later this month. The West Circle improvements, we got word today that the trellis will be installed next week, so the start of that project, you can see the slab is already out there. The gate entry system, the hardware portion of that project has been ordered, so in about 30 days the installation of the hardware will begin, and then we'll start implementing the system, and we'll have more information for that as we go through it. And obviously we'll probably have a town hall meeting to teach everybody how to use the new system. It's very user-friendly. You get to manage your own accounts. You'll be able to do things such as use your cell phone, internet, and any handheld device, and call people in. And by telephone, also there'll be a recording. If nobody's there, a recording will go directly to the front gate. Your guest comes up, I'm Mr. Smith, and you pull that up. They listen to the recording, and they're instantly given a pass into the property. And that is one big change we will be having. Guest passes will be handed out to all guests as they enter the property. And Community Gardens has been started, and you'll hear more about that project later on this year as we get more information for Community Gardens. And that concludes my report, Mr. Treasurer. Mr. President, we'll turn it back to you.
Yes, sure.
It's kind of a loaded question, but Michael, could you tell us where the airport is on your cost of activities? And I mean, I don't see airport on this list.
The airport's in Roads and Grounds Department.
So it represents 1 mile of 52 miles of roads that we have at PPOA, roughly.
Correct. In the airstrip itself, the maintenance of the airstrip is part of the Roads and Drainage Fund.
Okay. That's never been broken out, has it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Excuse me, Mr. President, I think it's broken down at the next level of detail. It's not broken down in the level of detail that we look at here. But if we go to the records, the accounting records that are in the office, at the next level of detail, you'll find the breakdown of the airport cost, independent. I just want to make that clear. It is broken down.
Okay.
We just don't see it.
Okay. All right, there's, next item is old business. There is no old business. And for new business, in your booklets, item A, 6A, Administrative Office Copier, do we have a motion?
I motion that we approve ACE 18-03-02, the Administrative Office Copier, for $17,598.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a second.
Let me explain what's going on with that particular ACE. There was a discussion within the Finance Committee, and that Janice provided the comparison of costs between leased and the purchase. The purchase with the maintenance agreement costs half of what leasing it would be over the lifespan of the equipment. So it was a much better financial deal for us to buy the Toshiba's, what it is, than trying to lease any of the 7 possible bids. So that was well researched, and I know it was a topic of interest, but it's been well researched.
We have any other comments or discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second to approve ACE 18-0302 for the purchase of a office copier. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. 6B, do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for approval of ACE 18-10-06. These are for bunker liners for the golf course.
We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second discussion.
Okay, if you play golf, your bane of existence is going into a bunker. We have liners underneath the sand in all the bunkers. The liners do a couple of things. Number one, they keep the sand in place so it doesn't all end up in the bottom of the bunker. Number two, and probably more importantly, it allows the bunkers to properly drain. If the bunkers don't properly drain, when we get a big rainstorm like we're apt to have in Texas, you can wash all the sand out of those bunkers. That happens at a lot of golf courses. We've been very fortunate here that with the bunker liners that we've had, we don't have that problem. We decided that we wanted to replace the bunker. There's also a safety hazard. As a bunker liner's wearer, people who are playing golf can have their clubs grab the bunker liner. You could hurt your hands or wrists. You can also trip coming out of the bunkers because they're kind of stringy materials. We put this out for bid. I believe there are 17 bunkers that we're looking to replace. We're looking for the better Billy bunker system, and the original estimate was $65,000. That's what we went out for. We're probably not going to be able to do all of the bunkers with the money that the cost just came out more than we expected. So it should cover the majority of the bunkers. Those bunkers, we'll just assess those bunkers that are not in as much need of having the bunker liners, and we'll try and repair those as best we can. So this is for an estimate of $65,000, and I recommend approval of this ACE.
Any other discussion? I just want to point out that I'll never be in a bunker, not because I'm a great golfer, but because I don't play golf. But I totally support the purchase of these bunker liners. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. 6C, GPS approach contract. Mr. Kite.
Yes, sir. I move that we accept the contract to maintain a GPS approach for a 5-year period totaling $17,240.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion?
I think we've discussed it.
Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving to agenda item 7, the management report. I'm sorry, that's not correct. This is Mr. Cote's audit committee discussion.
We need to make a motion to approve these minutes. Before the discussion, or do you want to discuss it?
Why don't you go ahead and make a motion, then you can explain it. Go ahead. You want to move to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I move to approve the minutes of the Board Audit Committee meeting that was held last month.
And we have a second. We have a second. Now, Bob, if you would explain what.
Okay. Basically, what this is we've reconstituted the Board Audit Committee of the Board of Directors, which is an independent audit function that's comprised of the 4 directors who are not officers of the company. It's a standard committee in most corporations throughout the world. Basically, what it does is it brings an independence from management and an oversight of the operations, of the officers, of management. It's an independent group of 4. So basically what we did, we met for the first time last month, and we met in conjunction with the start of the audit. Our outside auditors are in here now. Are they finished yet, Michael? Are they still?
No, they're not.
Right, so we're currently, our financial statement is currently being audited at this particular time. Prior to this audit committee, the general manager was engaging the outside auditor with the scope and the price and so forth, but it was approved 4, 5, 6 years ago. and it was a continuation of this thing. Basically, what the audit committee does is it takes that away from management and makes it independent, where the audit committee in the future will be recommending to the board the outside auditors that come in and audit us. So basically what these minutes say here is we met with the auditors, the outside auditors, and by the way, the audit committee is made up of Vince, Joe, and Roger Eade, who's not here, and myself, and the four of us. And we met and we agreed that we will not always have a person on the audit committee with financial background. So we have agreed that going forward, the Finance Committee will always make someone available to us as an advisor who has finance background. And this year, Bob Zinski, who's the chairman of the Finance Committee, will be attending all the Audit Committee meetings whenever we meet. That's an ad hoc thing. We don't meet regularly. We only meet when we have to. So Bob Zinski will be with the meetings as an advisor. So in the first meeting, basically what we did is we met with the outside auditors and we went over the scope of the audit. You know, what it is that they're going to be doing and so forth and so on, and how they were engaged in the first place. And we briefed them and gave them a copy of the new audit policy that in the future, whenever they have findings during the course of their audits, they're required by this policy to bring it to the attention of the audit committee as the representative of the full board. So it brings a component of independence, of a checks and balance, to bring more integrity to the management and to the board's function. Now, this policy is now going to be made into a bylaws. In this next election, you're going to get the vote on whether you want this audit committee, the scope and the details of the audit committee put in the bylaws of our corporation, so that it can't be changed in the future willy-nilly. You know, in other words, if somebody doesn't like the independence of a board of an audit committee of a board of directors, they can change it. Well, in the future, the only way you're going to be able to change this is through a vote of the membership. So you're going to be asked to vote on this thing, and hopefully we will pass that. It will take a 2/3 majority to get that in there. But if we do get it in there, it becomes a bylaws, in essence, a law. But if it doesn't get passed, then it'll probably get back instituted as a policy in the future. But basically, that's what it is. So we have the minutes of our meeting, and what we're asking the board to do is to approve these minutes. That will go into the record. So in the future, when there are issues that come up and the audit committee gets involved, it will be minuted, put in the record, brought to the board in front of the membership, voted on, and put to the record. So it just brings a little bit of more internal controls to the system. Basically, that's it, Bob.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Bob, for, first of all, bringing your expertise as an auditor when you, in your former life, and to point out to us where we had some ways where we could improve the controls, the internal controls that we have here between the board and our representation of the membership and management. And so I think this is a very, very important step for us. And again, I appreciate your initiative.
Can I add just one more point of detail here? You know, in the past, I've heard it many times at our meetings that, you know, everything must be okay because the auditors come in here, it's been audited, so everything is okay. Well, we discussed this with the auditors as well, and my colleagues who were at the meeting will attest here that an outside auditor that comes in to audit the financial statement is not giving you a clear bill of health on your internal controls, on your efficiency, on your effectiveness, whether you're paid the right price for a roads job or a construction job. They don't do that. All they come in and they verify that your records support the financial statement. So what your financial statement says is basically what you're worth. It doesn't talk about internal controls. In fact, the audit report specifically states that they do not comment on internal controls. So basically, that's our interest. We also asked our outside auditors to give us a proposal on what it would cost for us to have an internal audit conducted of our organization. I don't think there's ever been one conducted here. An internal controls audit, not a financial audit. So we're working on that as we go forward here. We hope to, improve the confidence that the membership has in the board of directors. That's what this is all about. Yeah.
I'm just curious about, is this a new outside audit firm or
No, it's the same one that we've had in the past. We've had, I think this audit company has been with us for 6 or 7 years, I think they told us in the meeting. And that's something we're going to look at. In other words, we need to, every few years, we need to reevaluate the outside auditors and whether we want to make a change or not. But that's up to the board of directors, and the audit committee will be the point to check that stuff out. Okay, Bob?
Yeah, any other discussion from the board members? If not, then we have a motion to approve the minutes of this new board audit committee. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you again, Bob. Management report.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's with a heavy heart that I have to announce the passing, most of you have heard of Darrell Davis. Darrell passed away suddenly on December 31st while he was actually driving a car. Darrell has been with us for 10 years, and he was our publications specialist. And if you have noticed over the years what our columns has turned into, this was his last piece of work. And it's if you look 10 years ago where we were to what we have become, publication-wise, it's been improved drastically, but that's not why everybody liked Darrell so much and really cared for him. He did many other things. He helped many other committees, anybody that needed help, graphic work, all the clubs and groups that were out there, he was always willing to help. He also, if you remember at our Christmas social, he was in a band, and he loved music, and he was the bass player, and he played at that celebration and has for many years. We're going to have a celebration of life for Darrell on Thursday, January 18th at 2:30. And all members are invited, so if you're so inclined to come up, it will be in the ballroom at 2:30 on the 18th. And we wish him, his wife Sharon, and his family, please keep them in our thoughts and prayers.
Repeat the date.
Thursday, January 18th, 2:30 p.m. in this room. Coming up, a little tough after that, but we do have a big Mardi Gras celebration coming up. Mardi Gras in the Brazos, our entertainment committee always puts on a great celebration of Mardi Gras. This year it's choose your own theme. So you can get a group of people, choose the theme of your crew table, and decorate it, and bring your beads to throw, and there'll be great New Orleans music, New Orleans cuisine, and it's usually very well attended. Prizes for best mask and best crew table. It's a great night of entertainment, so if you've never been to one, please try and join us on January the 27th. We have a new phone number in the columns for the front gate system. So with the changeover of our phone system, we went to a VoIP system, but that we weren't able to keep the front gate number. So it is in the columns, but if you would like to write it down, it's 682-498-6312. And so that's the new number for the front gate. We'll have a Meet the Candidates reception for our board candidates. That will be on Saturday, January 20th from 2 to 4:30 p.m. Each of the candidates will have an opportunity to speak, and then a question and answer period will follow. I want to thank all the residents who contributed to the Employee Bonus Fund. Department managers and myself do not participate in that fund. Nearly $20,000 was raised, and that was distributed at the employee recognition party that we have each December. That is based on tenure only. You get 1 point for every month, up to a 5-year maximum. And so it turned out to about $5 per point. So a 5-year tenured employee got about a $300 bonus. So on behalf of all of our residents, all of our staff, thank you very much for your generosity. Also, during that same event, we recognized, it's always difficult. We have so many great employees, but we always like to recognize a few of our standout employees. So the following employees received special recognition this year. Pastor Flores. Pastor has been with us 35 years. He is our #1 guy on the roads crew and also takes care of the stables operation. Actually, he lives at the stables and has been obviously an extremely valuable employee. Mary Smith, my executive administrative assistant, was awarded for special recognition for the work she's done. Thank you very much, Mary. Patty Trunk at our reception desk for the work that she's done. Great attitude, always willing to help. KD Long is our facility supervisor. KD can fix just about anything. There's nothing that that individual cannot fix. He's a valuable team member. So we recognize him. Amanda Mosier down on the 19th hole does a great job for us. She's recently done some great events down on the 19th hole, and she's also going to school, so she's trying to get her degree, so she's also going to get her degree soon, and we're very proud of her for doing that. And our one of our sous chefs, Kobe Douglas, you don't see Kobe very much, but he's our main line sous chef during the evening dining. So Kobe has a wealth of knowledge. He went to culinary school, went to Dallas, did some training at some high-end restaurants, and we were fortunate enough to bring him back. And our Employee of the Year, someone who goes above and beyond on a daily basis, this year it's Daniel Van Patten. And so I think we should give Daniel Van Patten a round of applause. Thank you to all of our employees who contributed and to all of our Special Recognition Award winners and to Mr. Van Patten. And Mr. President, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everybody again that I don't know if we have a starting time, Ross, but we will have a town hall meeting following this meeting. I guess we'll give everybody a few minutes to get up and relax for a few seconds and then come right back for a town hall meeting. Thank you. We're adjourned.